This is a podcast that looks at disability stories. It's like sitting down with a really close friend to have a real conversation about disability, sexuality, and everything else about the disability experience that we don't talk about. The things about being disabled, we keep in the dark. Here is your deliciously disabled host, disability awareness consultant, Andrew Gurza.
Well, hello, Seattle Queer Film Festival. Hello, everyone. And this is my very first live show that I'm ever doing ever. I'm so excited to be here. Yay. And today I am bringing on a new friend of mine, Daniel Montgomery. Hello.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks so much for having me.
Hi. Thank you so much for being here and for jumping in.
So excited.
Literally at the last second to be here for today. Cool.
I love it.
I'm so glad you're here. I know a little bit about you from the bio that I read this afternoon. But did you want to introduce yourself to the Disability After Dark audience? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Well, my name's Daniel Montgomery. I am an actor. I'm a writer. I'm a director. I guess I'm an editor and a producer now after working on this film. And I just had, currently have a film in the Seattle Queer Film Festival. We watched it live over the weekend, and now you can watch it virtually for the next week.
Amazing.
Did I cut out? Am I here? Have I reappeared?
You're here now. You were gone for a second. You cut out for a minute. So what I was saying was that's amazing. That's cool.
Great.
I know we're gonna play the trailer of your film.
Yeah.
Right now. So
love it.
I'm going to say let's play. And your film is Jessica's Cabin, right?
It's The Jessica Cabin.
All right, good. Yes. Thank you for correcting me. I guess let's play that and then
let's hear it.
We'll dive right in.
Great.
Okay. I'm gonna die if there's no Wi-Fi.
Really glad we decided to do this.
It's the name of the cabin on the listing. It's called the Jessica.
The Jessica?
You don't think she died here, do you?
Maybe.
Taylor, I think I'm in love with him.
He doesn't even know we exist.
We don't.
Well, that looks all kinds of queer and all kinds
It is.
It all looks all kinds of spooky, and I'm here for all of it. It looks great.
I love it. I'm so glad.
I'll have to snag myself a view of that at some point because it looks like fun. It looks
good. Well, the trailer did its job, man.
Yeah, it totally worked. And then we're going to talk about queer cinema a little bit and how we can make it more inclusive. But first, One of the things that I like to do on this show with my guests, especially with my non-disabled guests, because I usually speak to disabled folks or talk about the disabled experience, but a cool little thought experiment that I have for a lot of guests, especially queer men, is asking them what they think how they think their life would change if they became disabled tomorrow. So I love throwing out this question to queer people because it freaks them out. And I wonder how you felt or how you feel when I pose that to you.
Well, Andrew, I have to tell you that right as you asked the question, you froze. So I didn't hear the question. I heard you going into the question. I heard you coming out of it, but I didn't hear it.
All right, well, let me try again.
Sorry for the listeners. Would you repeat yourself?
It's all good. So the question that I like to ask a lot of queer men, specifically non-disabled queer men, is how do they think their life would change if they became disabled tomorrow?
Well, I think it would. That's an interesting question. I think it would change in quite a lot of ways, honestly. But at the same time, gosh, I hope this isn't a terrible thought to have. But I was thinking a lot this weekend about different people's experiences and what different people's challenges have been, and I was acknowledging sort of my privilege of being a white guy, definitely as queer as it gets, but sort of in relation to all these wonderful, like, rich, exciting, different people that I got to meet this weekend, and acknowledging that everybody has their own sort of set of challenges. And I sort of took a step back, and I think everybody in some ways is very, focused on, a lot of people are focused on themselves and their individual experience, and it's hard to step out of it. And I did have a moment where this weekend where I sort of stepped back and I was like, wow, you should, thank the powers that be for what you have been given, and constantly be showing, sympathy and empathy for others that are in different situations than you, and realize the ways in which you can either acknowledge them or help them, So I think in some ways, a lot of even working on the Jessica cabin, and then another feature that I wrote at the same time, I wrote about my high school experience growing up in Charlotte, North Carolina, and being bullied for being queer, and working through a lot of the trauma of all of that, which is very valid. I don't need to make fun of it at all, but I know from my own experience, like, I've always been in my own experience. So I think at least in that Southern straight environment, I felt disadvantaged as a queer person.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily not to equate that with disabled, but I'm curious as to how things would be different. I guess I don't know exactly how to answer.
Well, I like that. I mean, and the reason why I asked this question is because in queer spaces, like, it is very able-bodied, it is very privileged. There's so much of how we see queerness said back to us is white, able-bodied, muscular, queer, like, for all the stuff that a lot of people with physical disabilities like me can't really access. And that experience of, like, going to a bar and picking a dude up and having a fun night, or going on dates and meeting somebody like that, that is something that doesn't really happen a lot for people with physical disabilities who are queer, because those spaces are historically and continue to be inaccessible. So so I kind of wanted to understand from you, like, what is your queer experience now? And then let's play with the idea of you being a wheelchair user.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, before we got on air, we were talking about me. I loved Seattle, first of all. Visiting Seattle and being able to go out easily in bars, and going to different bars and sort of hopping around, and it it is easy for somebody like me to go wherever I want, whenever I want, and literally run free through the streets if I want to, causing havoc. I wouldn't, but like, that is something that was a lot of this, frankly, was a lot of this weekend, was going to a lot of different places, a lot of crowded places, and dancing with friends. So that is my current experience. That is active part of my life.
And, like, that's an experience. The clubbing experience for me is one that, like, I did it in my 20s. I did it when I was a young queer person. But, like, even then I realized that I didn't have a place there. I go into clubs with my wheelchair at 19, 20, like, through my mid to late 20s. I would go into these bars every weekend looking for the same thing every other queer guy was looking for, which is like a nice looking dude with a dick. And I would be confronted with, oh, you're disabled, I can't spend time with you, or, oh, I'm not sure how to deal with this, or, like, the amount of ableism that I would have to confront consistently just to have a weekend out was like, oh, what's the point? Why do I do this myself?
Sure. Yeah.
And so, like, I, like, that pretending for a minute that you woke up tomorrow and you were a wheelchair user, the whole kind of idea of like freely going to a bar totally comes into question, because then you'd have to consider like, how are you getting to the bar? What kind of accessible transit? You can't just hop into a friend's car. You maybe need like a transit bus, or you maybe need like a cab, and maybe there are not enough cabs in Seattle for disabled people to get them around. Like, so it really depends on just that whole idea of just going to the bar is just one part of the ableism that a queer disabled person has to manage. What if they can't get there? And then if they can get to the bar, what if the bar is not accessible? So great, you get to the bar, how do you get in? What if what if there's stairs? What if they don't want to let you in? What if there's so many variables to just those two sections? And then if you can get into the bar, what if you get into the bar and then no one talks to you because you're in a wheelchair and they're afraid to confront you?
Yeah.
And so I think that whole idea of just going to the bar, it sounds so easy for a lot of us, but I'm looking at that from all the inaccessibility of just getting to the bar.
Sure. Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're both to be like, no, you. I here in LA, I help run a company that does immersive interactive theater, and a lot of times that is I write the content, so it does skew pretty queer most of the time, and we do shows year round, and we've been doing shows for about 7 years. It's a company called JFI Productions, and one of the things early on that was important to our company was figuring out an accessible way for everybody to experience this haunted house, so it's definitely built into a lot of our shows. This, we, for the most part, it is an experience that is accessible to everybody, and if there are sections of it that are literally a little tight for a particular reason, or there sometimes you have to like crawl under a bed. We have actively been trying to, and do have sort of the pathway that so the experience is still accessible to everybody. And it's been a part of what I feel like makes our company is big on safety in general for a haunted, spooky sort of, we're gonna touch you experience that sometimes can sound extreme, like nobody's gonna jump out and choke you necessarily, but you will be guided with hands. And for us, we've always found that in order for anybody to fully enjoy or participate or experience the horror that we want you to, it's important first that you as a human being outside of the story, outside of the experience, feel safe and feel sort of taken care of, so you can release those other worries of, are these people like, is this building up code, or like, am I going to get COVID? Like all of these things we've had to sort of pivot and think about. And COVID was a big one, but early on, it is something that I do consider and think about when we are building and crafting these experiences. So hopefully no one comes to an experience and feels like, oh, well, it hasn't been thought about,
Well, and that's great. If ever you need a real live disabled person to, I don't know, consult for you on how to make it more accessible.
I wonder if I knew someone.
Gee, I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know. There could be somebody that but that is part of what I do in my work. I consult for companies to make sure that what they're doing is accessible. So if you need somebody.
Oh yeah, sounds good.
Well,
yes, we will continue that conversation then.
Yeah, I would very much like that. But let's talk about this thought experiment a little bit more and go back to like.
Sure.
So you wake up tomorrow and you end up in a wheelchair like mine, so a power chair.
Yes.
And you need help with pretty much everything. So I'm assuming right now that when you like get up in the morning, you just get up and do your stuff and you're off for the day.
That's
so
correct.
I want you to consider for a second what that might look like if you woke up but you couldn't get out of bed, you had to wait for somebody. And then every part of your day, from showering to like brushing your teeth to using the bathroom, is controlled by another person. How do you think that would? Can you share what your routine is now and how you think that would change? Those parameters would change if you needed help.
It would change quite a lot because although I have a great roommate, I'm alone most of the time, you know. So needing somebody there would be a big change. I'm also, I mean, I'm talking very literally here. I'm on my apartment is two levels, and it would be a challenge for me to get downstairs. The way the apartment is right now, I don't know how we could do it the way it is right now.
Yeah,
that would be literally my first thought of the day would be, how do I, in this apartment, if we're really thought experiment, if we're really like woke up tomorrow, my thought would be like, I get down, how many easily get downstairs, you know? That would be the first thing that came into my brain, most likely, you know?
Yeah.
Needing someone else here with me, and getting the tool to help me.
Yeah, and that can be really like I've lived with that most of my life.
Yeah,
and I'm used to it, but it's still daunting. You're still like, oh fuck, I gotta rely on someone else, and like
I know, and I don't like to rely on other people.
Yeah, me neither. I like to be as independent as possible, but you get used to the idea of letting them help you, and you get used to it, but it's never something you're like fully accepting of because it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Now, you know, most queer guys that I've talked to, that I posed this question to, have said to me, well, I go to the gym and then I do all this stuff. Is that part of your routine?
A little bit. I mean, I do. I'm Andrew. I'm scared of the gym, honestly. So
don't blame you. Me too.
I don't like. I've never worked at a gym in my whole life. It's just never been something that I've done. I work out here in this orange bedroom that you're looking at right now.
Amazing.
I work out here with some weights and some yoga. Now, that also obviously changes my routine, of course, just because I don't go to the gym. But would also be a change of I do those things regularly.
Yeah.
You know, I do those things weekly, if not sometimes some weeks daily. You know, it is a big part of my routine. The gym life, not for me, but the home gym life, absolutely for me.
Well, you could do like wheelchair yoga. You could do do different kinds of yoga, but it would definitely change. And like, how do you think you would feel about somebody having to like dress you, undress you, like get you ready, get you in the shower, that kind of stuff?
I mean, that would be, again, as for somebody who likes to do all the things myself, relying on somebody would be a challenge that I think I would have to really practice a lot of patience, honestly.
Yeah, it's 8:30 a.m. in the morning. Me is not. I'm not a morning person, so add on to that I have to wait for another person. It's like, oh yeah, great, sure.
Yeah, I'm not convinced I'd be especially nice sometimes.
No, yeah, I'm definitely right there with you. Because I'm not always the kindest in the morning. I try to be. I really try really hard to be, but I'm not always.
I believe you.
I really try really hard to be kind, but sometimes I'm just not.
Sure. I also think I probably would feel like I would feel some guilt that I was making this person. I think there would be some sort of gosh, I hope we really love each other, you know? Like I would just the only person I can think of right now is my brother. I'd be like, who would I'll even let do that for me? And I'm like, oh, best friend or brother, and the whole time I'd be like, oh gosh, I'm sorry about this, you know.
You know what?
Like, it's take up your time and strength.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because apologizing for things that I can't control as a disabled person is something that I do all the time, and I'm constantly saying sorry when it's like, what are you sorry for? That's just what your life is. It's okay.
Exactly. That's something that I'm just working on right now in my life, is not apologizing for it just as me now, like stuff that I can't control or that I shouldn't be apologizing for.
Yeah. It's really hard. It's not easy, and I do it.
It's hard.
I do it constantly when it comes to my disability and things that I need, or if I need help, or if I like. Now we Billy said we could talk about anything today, so I'm gonna throw you a sexy.
Okay.
I'm gonna throw you a sexy question. How do you
do it?
What is your sex life as a queer man right now in LA?
I am not. I guess I go through phases, but I'm not much for random hookups. Just not that guy. Although I have, and I probably will again. It's
cool.
not like it's not a daily part of my life. So for the most part, I do have. It's really just the one right now, honestly. But one sort of sexual partner that we both see each other when the feeling is right. So that is my current sex life. Just the one.
Okay. I'm trying to ask this with a respect without being super dirty. But
great.
Okay.
Let's see what happens.
All right. Okay, good. So how, like, in terms of physicality of the kind of sex you like to have, what is the kind of sex you enjoy?
I'm pretty straightforward. What an awful word to use for queer sex. Really,
it
I'm
really is
for that. And
you should. And you should.
And mostly, I'm on the top end of things. Andrew, that's my normal.
Cool.
That's
I love how
what I normally do.
I love how you tried to like say that as if we weren't talking about what we were talking about. So you're top, awesome, good, great, awesome, good.
Yes. Not always, but almost always.
Okay, great. So if you were in a situation like I am, that might change because when you're on top, usually that involves a lot of physicality, that involves a lot of your body being able to move and do things and angles and connection and all the stuff that like I used to call myself a top, and then I very quickly realized that I wasn't because I couldn't do a lot of the stuff that I saw tops in queer porn and media doing, and I was like, well, that's not
for sure.
I can't do that. So I've softly adopted I'm a side now, I guess, is what I am.
Side. I've been hearing that so much this year.
Yeah, it's
from so many of my friends. Like, I'm a side.
It's a new like gay term, which basically means like, well, I don't think it's new, but it's new to a lot of us, and it basically means like
new to me this year.
Yeah, right. It's new to a lot of us, and so it basically means like I like to make out, I like to do more intimate stuff, I like to be more not soft, but like I don't necessarily require penetration to to enjoy myself, and that for me was a huge like accessibility boon because I was like, wow, I don't have to worry about all this stuff. Great.
I know. Yeah, I have a few friends that recently have said like, I think I'm a side, and I'm on board for that. For me, it's not my go-to is not immediate penetration, and for many years I was just like, I don't even know if that's really for me, honestly. And maybe it goes in waves. I'm not sure, but I love the idea of the option and the identification of that.
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
Really fun.
And for me as a disabled person, like I technically could top because somebody could sit on me and it would be fine and go to town, but then I couldn't do anything to initiate that. So like I couldn't do anything physically to like thrust or any of that kind of stuff. So I always felt like I was kind of a failure as a top because I was like, well, I'm not doing what I see in porn, so none of this works. And I would kind of resent my disability. So I think even with your one partner, if you were a wheelchair user tomorrow, like you'd have to rethink how you considered pleasure.
Yes, that is very true.
How do you think your current partner might feel about like if you were to be like, hey, I'm in a wheelchair now, but let's hang out?
I think completely honestly, my current partner would be really lovely about it. I think he would be I think he would be the guy for that. I'd like to believe it wouldn't push him any particular way.
Good.
Figure
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm hearing you're saying great things, but all I hear is clicking. I don't know if it's your headphones.
Am I still clicking?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try out my head.
Okay, sure. This is the live show, folks. Oh, no, we can't hear you at all. Can you take them off of there? What if you just didn't have headphones and it came through your computer? No. Cool, we're just gonna hang out. Well, Daniel figures out his. Oh, maybe.
Hold on.
Okay. You had it for a second there.
Here, can you hear me now?
Yes, good.
Okay, great.
So say all those cool things you were saying again.
Let's see if I can remember. I think what I was saying was that yes, current partner, I think would have a genuinely lovely response to that. And I have had many a partner that I think would probably not be the ones that I could rely on to be
kind,
easy about that, kind and easy about that. But this one in particular, I think would absolutely just say, okay, well, let's figure this out together and see what we could do.
And that's how it should be. But you're right. A lot of guys that I've met who are not sex workers that I've met. Most of the sex workers that I've worked with are great. Well, not all of them, but a good handful of them have been okay. But a lot of the guys that you meet on an app or you want to meet out socially, and then I say like, hey, want to go back to my place and see what happens? They're like, oh yeah, I don't know how I feel about being with the guy in a wheelchair. And it's like, oh, cool.
I think I've also met guys that I could imagine having that response.
It's pretty sad, but it's really common. That's part of why I asked that question, because I think there's a lot of ableism in our community, a lot of like body stuff around physical ability and what we're able to do and not do. And I also want to give you the opportunity to ask me a bunch of questions around disability that you maybe have had rolling around your head for a while and want answers to. And that's one of the ways I think we can combat ableism. So I want to open the floor to you for a bit and let you just ask me questions about disability.
Well, I'd love to hear about, you asked me about my sexual preferences, and I know you said you're a side? Is that
I guess now I am. That's what it is.
What's been your experience as a side?
Guys don't love it because they want what they see in porn, and sure. I can't provide that. Although I've done porn, so like,
tell me more about that.
I did a porn back in 2019 for Himmeros TV with Davey Wavy's production company.
Yes, I'm familiar.
And I did it with my friend John Shield for their like second anniversary or whatever. They wanted regular people to like recreate scenes, and they reached out to me and said, we know you want to do one. Do you want to be in a porn? I was like, sure. So I reached out to my friend and sex worker John Shield and was like, would you be in a porn with me? Let's do this.
Was it a great experience?
It was real. And I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again. I had a really good time doing it because we got to spend, first of all, we had worked together for years already as sex worker and client at that point. So we were comfortable with each other. Yes. But then also we got to spend time factoring in, how do we show Andrew getting out of the wheelchair? How do we show the wheelchair in the shot? How do we make the wheelchair part of the sex? How do we like play with the fact that you can't get undressed? How do we make it sexy and do all the things, but make it something that's hot for the viewer? And so that for me was really fun to incorporate my everyday experience with disability into a hot scene where like at the end of it, we're going to both be, you know, enjoying each other. That was really cool. And I think really important. So I look at that scene as a how-to, not only of how to have sex with a disabled person, but how to view sex and disability as a pleasurable, hot thing.
Yeah.
And for me, that was really cool.
Was that scene indicative of how a really wonderful sexual moment would go?
Yeah. So like if people want to fuck me, I say to them like, all right, let me show you this first. So you have an idea about what you're getting and what will be required of you if we do this, because that way they can at least see that, oh, look, Andrew not only got pleasure here, but he also helped give pleasure.
Sure. Have you done that before to somebody? Said, watch this video, let's go.
A couple times, yeah. I've sent it around to some people that I was like, I think you're hot and I probably want to sleep with you. Do you want to look at this first? Let me know what you think.
I love that's part of your sex thing, maybe.
Yeah. Making well, that it's kind of like an educational thing, but also a really hot thing that we got to do together.
I think that sounds great. I think I'd be so nervous, honestly. I mean, I'm an actor, not that it's the same thing, but I think I'd be so nervous.
I mean, there when you do a porn, there's definitely some acting. Like we played it up, and it was a bit like, you know, the scene was called Brothers, so we got to kind of go into like a weird sexy.
Did you have a script?
No, but we kind of made one on the fly, and we kind of just did it. But it was like we got to play. I got to play and do a bit of that like play acting. It was really cheesy, but we knew it was cheesy, and we didn't care because we're like, in a minute we'll be sucking each other's dick, so it doesn't matter. So it's fine.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a really good time.
Are you on dating apps?
I am on the Scruff. I don't do the Grinder because I feel Grinder is like really just way more problematic. I like Scruff because
harsh place.
Yeah, I like Scruff a little more. It's not great, but it's a little better because you can pretend like that there are more like kinder people on there. They're not, but you can pretend they are. And so I am on the apps, and my name on there right now is Big Dick Crip. I just go full out and I don't fucking care. And I play with the fact that I'm disabled, and I play with it all the way up because I'm like, if you're gonna want to get to know me, this is what you're gonna have to. This is what you're gonna get to know. And if you can't laugh at it, what are we doing?
Sure, absolutely. Have you met anybody in Scruff that you like?
Yeah, but they're all like thousands of miles away, and not like. We're never gonna meet each other, but yeah, I met some good dudes on there.
Good.
So yeah, I wanted to just keep the questions going for you. Do you have any other like burning disability questions?
Well, I mean, all my questions are as I'm getting to know you, Andrew, and like you a whole lot. Like all my questions want to be specifically for your experience. We also before. Oh wait, I can't remember what we said before air and during air. But do you go out a lot? And if you do, where? Like in terms of gay bars, is that something that even interests you? Honestly,
not really. A lot of the gay bars that I've been to have been really, like I said, the experiences of like when you get to the bar, no one talks to you, or like I've called up bars in Toronto that I wanted to go to and have them tell me, well, you know, your wheelchair can't get in, but did you want to bring another wheelchair? And it's like, no, that's not how this works. Like then these are queer establishments that will scream, love is love. We love everybody. Yeah. And it's like, no, you don't. Because if you did, you'd make it accessible.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And so bars don't like, and for me, because I'm sitting down, bars are loud and it's hard to hear me if you're standing up over me and I'm trying to talk to you. It's really hard. So I don't find bars to be a place that I want to go. And I also live with like, on top of the disability, I live with depression and anxiety and a whole bunch of stuff. So going to a noisy bar, well, it sounds fun, is really not for me.
Yeah. What was the other thought that I had? I mean, would you mind? We guys, whatever you want, but walking. Oh, I guess we kind of already talked about it a little bit, but like, I'm curious as to like a guy comes over. How does that work? Like,
okay. Well, if a guy came, say it again.
Walk us through it, all of us.
I'm not walking us through anything because I can't walk. So,
wow. There we go.
There it is. But I'll tell you how it goes. Well, I mean, if it's a positive experience, usually what I'll do is I'll have the guy come over. I'll explain to them long before we do anything sexual that I have a disability. Here's what I need. Here's what I require. Before we have a date, before we have a drink, they know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure they're okay with it. And then like I'll play the last date I had for you, which is probably about 4.5 years ago. I don't go on dates very much because guys are trash. Okay. But about 4.5 years ago, I went on a date with a guy. He knew I was in a wheelchair. He knew all of that. It was fine with him, no problem. We chatted on the app for about a week before we met. And then finally we met. We went out for burgers. Everything was fine. We had food. We had laughs. Everything was going well. And at the end of the burgers, he was like, oh, can I come back to your place and we'll fool around a bit? And I was like, okay, great. So he came back over here. And the minute we got in my room and the minute my shirt got off, and I needed help getting my shirt off. So I told him what to do. He looked at me like, oh, I didn't realize you were that disabled. He didn't say that, but his whole face switched. And so I pretended like I didn't notice it, and I just let it happen. And we had some mediocre sex. It wasn't great for either of us. And both of us knew we weren't having the best time, but we gave it a shot. And then I didn't hear from him again, so I figured we were done. Whatever, no problem. And then 4 days later, I get this text. Hi. And I was like, oh, no. Okay. And then it's the 3 dots for like 20 minutes. I was like, oh, no. What are you going to say now? And he was like, I don't think we should spend any more time together. And I was like, cool. We didn't talk for 4 days. Kind of got that. But tell me why, because you're telling me. And he was like, I realized you were too disabled for me and you were not independent enough in the bedroom. And I was like, cool. Okay. Thank you for telling me that. I don't know why you felt the need to share that with me, but thank you for letting me know. And he goes, oh yeah, you remind me of another disabled person I know. So every time I'm with you, I think of them. And I was like, cool. We're not the same person. Don't really know why you felt the need to tell me that. So, I mean, I have a lot of experiences like that where people don't know how to navigate the fact that I'm really like, I am what doctors refer to as severely disabled, and people don't know how to navigate that because when queer men think of disability, if they think of disability at all, what they're probably picturing is a white, muscular guy in a manual speedy racing chair that plays basketball or does, racing. So somebody that has the qualities that unfortunately most queer men are looking for, which is muscles and, some athleticism. And I don't have any of that. So it puts their idea of queer sexuality on its head because I'm forcing them to confront the fact that they might be attracted to somebody who doesn't hold those ideals. And it scares them. But if it's with like my sex worker and someone that I know, like he'll come over and get me out of my chair and put me in my sling, which sounds dirty, but it totally isn't. It's a transfer sling. He'll put me in my sling and we'll have a fun time, and it's really relaxed and easy once you understand what the parameters are. But I think because we don't see queer sex with disabilities in media, like I just came off doing Queer as Folk. I was in the new Queer as Folk a few months ago. I got to consult for them for that season, and I got to do, at the end of my consulting, they were like, we're filming the disabled orgy sex scene. Do you want to be in it? And I was like, yeah, sure. So
yes, I do.
So I mean, I got to do that, and I got to help showcase sex on TV, but because our sex and disability on TV, but because we don't see that every day, and we don't, it's not part of our media. The queerness. You froze again? Did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze again. We had just finished the queer as folk comment.
So yeah, I was so glad to get to do that and to get to talk about and to get to be a part of Queer as Folk and to get to like be on that show, because we don't see queerness and disability in queer media, and we need to see it a lot more. Like I was even looking at the trailer for the Jessica cabin, being like, where can we infuse? Where can the disabled character be? How do we like put that in there? Like I was watching the trailer, looking for signs of myself. And obviously, not that I expected there to be any, but like I'm already like, so your next film should be about disability. How do we do that?
I love that thought. And this also makes me want to watch Queer as Folk now, which I didn't watch, but now I kind of want to watch it.
Episode 4.
Episode
I'm
4.
in it.
All right.
Yeah, that's me. I'm right in there. But yeah. So as a filmmaker, how do you think like we can look at queer themed media and make it more inclusive of disability?
Well, I think what you're saying is great about having it, having it represented seems to be a great and hopefully seamless way to sort of show that and make it something that's a little more common just in general in all types of, even specifically queer media, of having that as, as having a disabled character, having it even as part of the, storyline or the plot,
Yeah. I think we need more queer disabled people in queer writers' rooms to be like, yo, what about this? And what about this? And have you thought about this? And like, I just don't think until disability happens to you, or you experience, or you meet somebody with a disability who's like, what about this? You don't think about it. So I'm not saying that it should have been in the Jessica cabin. I'm saying now that we've talked for the next, no, I'm kidding. But I'm saying like for the next, the next time you think about putting something together, my hope would be that your brain is like, what about a disabled character? What about this?
Well, sure. Now, absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah.
But and so one of the things I wanted to ask you too, because I want us to get to like a comfy spot to ask this. So one of the things I ask a lot of my non-disabled guests are, do you think there was a moment in your life as a queer person where you maybe unintentionally did an ableist thing?
I'm sure that's the case, Andrew. I'm sure it happened at some point, and maybe it's telling and a problem that I can't think of that instance,
Yeah. And I wasn't asking that to be like, tell me the time you were a horrible person. I was asking it because like, so many queer men particularly contribute to ableism without realizing it. And I kind of want to like gently call you in to like, let's think about a time. Like I can think about even a time when I recently was ableist. I remember looking at somebody who was attracted to me and they had a different disability. And my very first thought in my brain was, oh no, that won't work. We don't have the same kind of disability. And like, that's horrible and super ableist, because maybe they were really cool. But what I'm saying is like, we all do it. And I think that like, we have to find ways to be less ableist in queer spaces.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah. I want you to ask me more questions because that's fun. So go.
We were, well, why is my brain like is turning just sexy? It's
okay. I like sexy. Go. I'm ready.
So,
are you flirting with me right now? Is that what's happening?
Listen.
Hey, let's.
I know we've said your side.
Yeah.
Did you ever have any good experiences as a top or bottom?
I've never bottomed because I can't clean myself out. I can't do the douching physically, and I feel like bringing in a poor attendant that has no idea what they're in for to like do that part is kind of scary. And then bringing in a random dude that doesn't know my asshole is also really scary. So I haven't really explored that yet. I like barebacking a lot with people that I know and trust and get tested a lot, and I get tested a lot, and so that's fun. That's fun. I will say one of my biggest perks is I can't walk, but I do know how to use my mouth. So I mean, that's my.
You heard it here first, or maybe it's not the first time you've heard it.
It's definitely not the first time the audience has heard it, so don't worry. But I can't walk, but I sure know how to use my mouth. So like I like rimming. I like all the things that I can do that are accessible to me as a queer person with a disability.
Yeah. I love that.
Cool. I mean, well, it is fun. My running joke is because I live with cerebral palsy, and cerebral palsy, you know, as you get older, it gets harder to swallow, which I know is a shame. And so because you know, part of having CP also means that I might choke on something when I pass away, and so my only hope is that I get to choke on something that I enjoy.
Oh gosh, yes, definitely yes.
It's my dream.
All of that, yes.
Cool. Somebody asked on the screen that sent in a live question: are there any other film series you'd recommend with disabled characters? Queer as Folk. Yeah,
especially episode 4.
Episode 4, because I'm in it. What else? Other series that I have. Oh, a movie that I love that came out last year, maybe 2 years ago now, because who knows what time is?
Who knows time? Yeah,
the pandemic is really weird. But that movie Run with, what was her name?
Oh, with Sarah Paulson.
Sarah Paulson, and
I wish I had. I still can.
It's fantastic. It's really it's a thriller about a girl with disabilities who gets trapped in a house by her mom, who has some mental illnesses and who traps her there. And the girl with disabilities has to try to get out of her house. And as a disabled person who can't really do a lot of stuff on their own, it was really fun to watch.
I have 2 things that I'm going to now watch because of you.
3, the porn, obviously. 3
things that I need.
3. What else would I recommend? There's a series I do on my show. If you want to hear me rip into movies about disability that are shit, there's a series I do on this show called Great Flicks and Joysticks, where I basically take a movie about disability and I review it, and I usually tear it apart. And so I recently did Sia's Music, that movie she did about the autistic character that's not, and they didn't hire an autistic person to be in the role, and there were so many problems with it, so I tore it to shreds, and it was really fun. And then I recently did that movie with Bryan Cranston and Kevin Hart, where Bryan Cranston plays
I saw that movie.
Yeah, and I ripped that to shreds too, because I was like, okay, it could be better. Like, just hire a disabled person. That's all you had to do. Like, why did he have to take it? So yeah, there are a lot of films about disability. There are not a lot of films about disability done well, because we're not hiring disabled writers. We're not hiring disabled cameramen. Or camera people. We're not hiring people behind the camera to give you the disability lens to make the film actually viewed as you would a disabled person. A great film that I would recommend is Crip Camp, though. If you want to watch a really good documentary about disability justice, Crip Camp is the way to go.
That's 4 things I need to watch.
Amazing. So ask me more dirty questions about my sex life. I enjoy that. That's
how's your experience with it sounds like you've had some really good experiences with sex workers.
I've had great experiences and I've had shit experiences. I had somebody steal $5,000 from me at one point.
What?
because they told me that I could pay in advance and I trusted them, and then they ran away with the money.
Oh man,
men are the worst. And I've had really famous sex workers / porn stars come in here and be really weird. So, but my one main sex worker that I work with, John Shield, is amazing and really cool and a sweet guy. And we've been working together now for just about 5 years.
How do you? I mean, I don't want to give away your secrets, but how did you find him?
I went on just an escort site and I just looked around, and it was literally I'll say what it is. Sure. Rentmen is where I went to find him, and it was great. And
Wow.
and
that's
we
why we sponsor this podcast.
Yeah, Rentmen, if you want to sponsor me, that'd be great. Amazing. Thank you. No. But no, I find a lot of my sex workers through there. And it's trial and error. Like, you meet some that are great, but they can't vibe with disability. They don't understand my needs that way, or we don't vibe that way. Or like I've told this story before, but I'll tell you again. I had a guy once come in here and he flopped on the couch and he was like, "Oh, you're so handy capable. We'll get along great." And I was like, "Who are you? And why did you feel it was okay to say that when you walk in my house?" So I've had the gauntlet of really, really hot experiences and then really not so great ones. But I think, now that I found one or two people that I really get along well with,
yeah,
I'll put my money there as opposed to like trying out someone new that might not be sure how to handle all that.
I feel that. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm always open for other experiences too. So if you're a good sex worker who wants to try being with a disabled person for the first time, let me know.
Love it.
I love being able to teach somebody. Like when I first met my sex worker now, he had never been with a disabled guy before, and there was something really cool about getting to show him what disabled sex was like.
Yeah.
And I asked him years ago, I said, "Did that scare you?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, of course I was scared, but now it's comfortable. Now I'm used to it. It's fine. It doesn't bother me now." But he just had to get used to it. Do you think that if you now, as Daniel Montgomery, walked up to like a hot disabled dude at the bar, do you think you'd be afraid to go home with him or offer him or like go back to his place?
I think genuinely after having this conversation with you, I'd feel more comfortable.
I mean, I know you're booking your flight to Toronto right now, as I know that's happening in the back. No, but like, yeah, well, I'm glad, because I think, there's a discomfort level that people have and they're afraid to ask questions. And that's why
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I think my hesitation is that I would, or hesitation would be that I would do something wrong. Like I would unintentionally hurt you in this situation, or like we were kind of talking about earlier, unintentionally say something or do something that I didn't know was, would offend you or hurt you. That's where my hesitation would be, is making sure you're like, for me, just as me as a human being, is making sure you feel okay, and not like, I can't handle that. Like it's for me being like, I don't want to mess. I don't want to hurt you somehow.
Yeah. See, the funny thing is that when I'm with an able-bodied guy, when I'm with a non-disabled guy and we're fucking, I'm doing the same thing in my head. Like, I have to make sure they're okay. I have to downplay my disability. I have to not ask for too much help because I want to make sure they're okay and I don't scare them enough. So the irony is that while you're worried about doing the wrong thing, I'm on the other end being like, "Oh my God, what if he's so scared? How do I?" So like, to both of us, I would say like, fuck off and just be yourselves, and hopefully some fun will come of it.
That's something, I mean, I said this earlier, but it is something that I'm also actively working on. I did have a wonderful time this weekend in Seattle, Andrew, and had a wonderful time with the guy that I met there, and we had a wonderful time together.
I heard the story.
And even me being me in our perfectly consensual, wonderful couple hours together, I found myself just checking in with him constantly, like about things where I'm like things are going great, Daniel. Calm down. Like,
yeah, and when I'm with an able-bodied guy, like especially somebody of your caliber, because you're kind of cute. So if we were hanging out, like
we are flirting.
I mean, a little. There's a little bit of back and forth happening, but like if I was with somebody of your caliber, I would be having a nightmare of like, oh my god, what if my disability gets in the way? What if he like disappears?
Stop! You're making me blush. My caliber? Come on.
You know, I mean, you're. I'm not gonna pretend like you're not a tasty treat. So it's.
I love it.
Not gonna pretend like when I didn't get your headshot on my email this afternoon, I wasn't like, oh, okay.
Well, it's good to know that we both have similar fears in a
way.
way.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of nice to know that we both be awkward as fuck. Yeah. Well, I have no more things to ask you. I just it was really fun chatting with you. It was so fun.
It was so fun chatting with you. I didn't know we'd get this deep, Andrew, and I'm glad we did.
I mean, if only we were closer, we'd get so much deeper.
Listen. I just be constantly checking in with you to make sure you're okay.
Me too. And I'd be constantly being like, oh my god, is my disability in the way? The sex would take 7.5 hours.
Well, okay.
All right. I'm down for that. It's totally. I like long sessions anyway, so it's good.
Great.
Good.
Oh, great.
Awesome. So on that flirty note, how do the people listening, how do they get a hold of you? How can they follow you? How can they support you?
The easiest way to get a hold of me is honestly Instagram. Good old classic Instagram.
Cool.
I am Daniel X Montgomery on Instagram.
Well,
you'll see.
You know what the X stands for in gay terms, right? You do understand that there's like some porn elements to the X, right?
Tell me what it means.
When dudes put X in between their like first and last name, usually that means I am a porn star or I do like OnlyFans shit. Do you have an OnlyFans?
Neither of those are true. Not even close.
Well, that's unfortunate because you really should have one.
Wow. The only reason that X is there is because my middle name and my middle initial was taken. So I was just like, okay, sure. That's the best way to find me and say, hey, all of like the Jessica Cabin, the film that was in the festival, is like my heart and soul and sweet little baby. So is everything to find out that on my page. So you can say hi to me. You can tell me you want me to be a porn star on there, and you can find out information about the Jessica Cabin and what the future holds for that. And I just did a cute, sweet, really honest, heartfelt post about and a little flirty post about my time at the Seattle Queer Film Festival and how wonderful it was. So follow me and say hi. I'm also on Twitter, Daniel Montgomery, just classic. But I'm not as active on there as I am on Instagram.
I don't blame you. Twitter is a trash fire, and you should run away.
Horrible, angry place.
Yeah, it's a really angry. It's a really sad place.
Instagram is pretty sometimes, although the algorithm doesn't put me in touch with any of my friends.
But
please say hi to me on there. That's the best way.
Well, I think you should send me a copy of your film because I want to watch it now. Because I now need to see it and be like, so you could add disability in here. What about this?
Yeah.
I might send you disabled notes being like, what about this? What about here? I will. It'll happen right now.
And I mean, my butt's in it. So if you want to see my naked body, it's in the movie. So there's that at least.
I feel like we've talked for an hour, and haven't I been afforded that privilege yet?
Well, it's there. So maybe I'll go on to Himeros and see you, and then you can just watch my movie and see me.
Fair. It's fair. It's fair. Daniel Montgomery, this is such a fun live thing we did. This is my first live show of Disability After Dark ever.
I love it. Technical difficulties and all, we really pushed through.
We really crushed it. We really fucking crushed it.
Hey, right now, are you okay? You feel good?
I'm good. Is my disability getting in the way of this? Is it?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Good. Amazing. Thank you to Seattle Queer Film Festival for having me and for doing this with us, and for Daniel Montgomery for jumping on at the last moment to take up the helm for this. We had such a fun conversation, and yeah.
See you soon.
All right, friends.